My name is Nicole Woodbury. I read The Witch Who Went for a Walk for my book report. The author of my book is Margaret Miller. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is outside. My favorite character in the book was the witch because she is silly. For example, the witch is scared of the trick-or-treaters she sees on her walk. One of my other favorite parts of the story is when she takes her cat everywhere. I think you should read this book because it is fun to read.
My name is Luca Montemuro. I read Skippy John Jones. The author of my book is Judy Shackman. It takes place in its room. This book is a fiction book. My favorite character in the book was Skippy John Jones. He pretends he has a good imagination. For example, he pretends he is a sword fighter chihuahua named El Scapito.
One.
One for my favorite parts when he stabs the bee. It really is when he stabs the bee. It really is.
Okay, we're gonna stop.
You have to do that over.
My name is Luca Montemuro. I read Skippy John Jones. The author of my book is Judy Shackman. It takes place in its room. This book is fiction. My favorite character in the book was Skippy John Jones. The because he has a good imagination. For example, he pretends he is a sword fighter chihuahua named El Scapito. One of my favorite parts of the story is when he stabs the bee with his sword and candy and beans fall out of it. It really was his birthday piñata. I think you should read this book because this book is Skippy John Jones is a funny character.
My name is Katie Hansen. I read Chester the Out of Wood Dog for my book report. The author of my book is Marilyn Singer. This is a fiction book. The setting of the book is when the setting of the book is in the barn. My favorite character in the book was Chester because he was helpful. For example, Chester led sheep and people. One of my other favorite parts of the story is when they move. I think you should read this book because it is funny when Chester thinks that kids are sheep. My name is Austin Greeno. I read How Do Dinosaurs Say I Love You for my book report. The author of my book is Jane Yellow. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is At Home. My favorite characters in the book was the dinosaur because they I forgot to do
Are
nice. He gives hugs to his, for example,
to his family.
to his family. When the dinosaur makes a mess, it's fun and has great pictures.
My name is Andrea Kinsweller. I read Fancy Nancy and The Boy from Paris for my book report. The author of my book is Jane O'Connor. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is at school and home. My favorite character in the book was Fancy Nancy because she always had something nice to say. For example, as she asked the new boy if he wanted to be friends. One of my other favorite parts of the story is when she shared her lunch with the new boy. I think you should read this book because it is a very funny and a weird book.
My name is Riley Kozer. I read Camilla the Cupcake Fairy for my book report. The author of my book is Tim Bunkbird. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is outside. My favorite character in the book was Camilla because she's funny and nice. She's funny because she tried to get frosting on her cupcake, but there was only a mouse. One of my favorite parts of the story is when she calls her friends. They all try and it works. There's frosting on the cupcake. I think you should read this book because it's fun to read and it's funny.
My name is Adriana Godwin. I read Part-Time Princess for my book report. The author of my book is Barbara Underwood. This book is a fiction book. The setting of my book is a house and a castle. My favorite character in the book was Princess because she saves the dragon, for example. She invites the dragon to tea. One of my other favorite parts of the story is when the princess, she says, "Princess to the rescue." I saves the kingdom as usual. I think you should read this book because it is a fun book because she is a good person.
My name is Andrea Schrader. I read Haley the Rain Fairy for my book report. The author of my book is Daisy Meadows. This book is a fiction book. The setting of my book is Fairyland, the park, and Christie's house. My favorite character in the book was Haley because she is beautiful and nice. For example, she was beautiful because she has high heels and wavy hair. One of my other favorite parts of the story was a bird named Doodle attacked Jack Frost. That is really funny. I think you should read this book because part of it is funny and part of it is serious.
My name is Armando Rivera. I read Henry and Mudge Under the Yellow Moon for my book report. The author of my book is Cynthia Ryland. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is outside. My favorite character in the book is Henry because he is nice. For example, he let Mudge lick apples. One of my other favorite parts of the book is when Henry picked apples and Mudge licked apples. I think you should read this book because Halloween is coming up and this book is about Halloween.
My name is Weston Morgan. I read Happy Birthday Good Night for my book report. The author's name is...
Author of your book.
The author of my book is
Shelley.
Shelby Martin Thomas. The setting of my book is a palace. This book is
Fiction.
my fiction book. My fiction favorite part character of my book was the knight because he is not helpful. For example, he makes cakes with the three dragons. One of my other favorite parts of my book setting is the story is he makes a cake card. I think you should read this book because this has lots of details.
My name is Mason. I read Henry and Mudge in Puddle Trouble. For my book report, the author of my book is Cynthia Ryland. This is a fiction book. The settings of my book is in the puddle. My favorite character in the book was Henry because he is always funny. He gets muddy all over him. For example, he is attracted to the puddle. One of my favorite parts of the story is Henry loves his dog. I think you should read this book because it is so funny. I laughed at every page.
Brittany Gorman. I read Belle the Birthday Fairy for my book report. The author of my book is Daisy Meadow. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is the birthday party and home. My favorite character in the book was Belle because she helps people from the goblins. For example, she is nice because she saves the birthdays.
One of my other favorite parts of the story is she makes her friends laugh. I think you should read this book because it is fun. It is a fun book to read because it is cool.
My name is Haley Hunter. I read Princess Puppy for my book report. The author of my book is Burnett Ford. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is in the palace and the garden. My favorite character in the book was Princess Puppy because she's a real princess. For an example, she lives in a palace. One of my other favorite parts of the story is when Princess Puppy made a friend. I think you should read this book because it's funny because of Princess Puppy.
My name is Kelsey Gonzalez. I read Fancy Nancy for my book report. The author of my book is Jan O'Connor. This book is a fiction book. The setting of my book is at a restaurant. My favorite character in the book was Fancy Nancy. For example, her family went out for dinner and she taught her family how to be fancy. One of the other favorite parts of the story is when the tray does a flip. I think you should read the story because there are fancy words in it. In the book, it is fun and exciting too.
My name is Ella Crowder. I read The Ugly Duckling for my book report. The author of my book is Hans Christian Andersen. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is at a duck's nest. My favorite character in the book was the duckling because he likes to glide over the water. For example, he has white feathers and is graceful. One of my other favorite parts of the story is the big egg still didn't hatch yet. I think you should read this book because it is a very classic book. I do not want you to miss out.
Elena Cowers. I read Pinkalicious and The Pink Drink for my book report. The author of my book is Victoria King.
Time. That's okay. Be quiet.
I don't know.
This
This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is inside and outside. My favorite character is Pinkalicious because she was funny. For example, she put strawberry frosting in the lemonade. One of my favorite parts was when she put watermelon in the lemonade. I think you should read this book because it is funny. It was funny on every page.
My name is Hannah Cook. I read When the Library Lights Go Out for my book report. The author of my book is Megan McDonald and Catherine Tilson. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is in a library. My favorite character in the book was Lion and Rabbit because they like adventures, like me. For example, Lion makes a fancy captain and snores like a pig. One of my other favorite parts in the story is when Rabbit wore a sock on his head. I think you should read this book because it is cool, silly, Rabbit and Lion. You too, Missy and Mister.
My name is Anise Keys. I read Peeping Beauty for my book report. The author of my book is Mary Jane Out. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is stage. My favorite character in the book was Palati because she likes to dance a lot. For example, she danced on stage and she was nice. One of my other favorite parts of the story is when the fox tricked her to do this just to eat her. She was mad at the fox. I think you should read this book because Fox is nice to people and funny. And then to put Palati, but I think you should read this book because Palati is nice to people and funny.
Hi, my name is Jordan. I read Green Eggs and Ham for my book report. The author of my book report is Dr. Seuss. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is outside. My favorite character in the book was Sam because he is funny. For example, he rhymes with words and he has tools. I think you should read this book because it is good and it is funny.
My name is Ariana Glenn. I read Ladybug Girl for my book report. The author of my book is David
Soma?
Simone. The setting of my book is at her house and outside. My favorite character in the book was Lulu because she is brave. For example, she helps the ant. One of my other favorite parts of the story is when she was fixing the wall. I think you should read this book because it was a good book that kept my attention.
My name is Alexis Cavell. I read Princess Policy and the Monster Stew from my book report. The author of my book is Timothy Green. The setting of my book is at school and at Halsey's house. This book is a fiction book. My favorite character in the book was Halsey because he was pretty and she is the main character. For example, Halsey was funny when Origins' eyeball came from his rubber mask came out. She yelled gross. She also has pretty dress. One of my favorite parts of the story is when Halsey put her hands in the pumpkin. I think you should read this book because it is funny. It has a princess Halsey. The book in the book, Halsey picked up the eyeball and threw it. That's cool.
My name is Rocco Buchanan. I read Here Comes the Strikeout for my book report. The author is Leonard Kessler. This is a fiction book. The setting of my book is the baseball field. My favorite character is
Bobby.
Because he works hard to hit the ball. One of my favorite parts of the story is when he makes a hit. I think you should read this book because it can help you bat.
My name is Cameron. I read Guard the House In for my book report. The author of my book is Shannon Simon. This is a fiction book.
The setting of my book?
The setting of my book is at home. Sam is funny because he wrecked the house. For example, after he wrecked the living room, he fell asleep in it. He looked for burglars, but he couldn't find any, and he made the house fall.
My name is Michael Stewart. I read Star Wars Boba Fett for my book report. The author of my book is Terry Bassan. This is a fiction book. The settings of my book is in space. My favorite character in the book was Boba Fett because he was smart like me. For example, he drove a spaceship, which is hard to do. Where's my other favorite parts? Of the story is when Boba Fett shot down the Jedi. I think you should read this book because it was an awesome book.
My name is Ryan Johnson. I read The Big Bad Coal for my book report. The author of my book is Norman Bridwell. This is a funny fiction. The setting of my book is Emily Elizabeth. What's his last name?
House.
My favorite character in the book was Clifford. What's that? Clifford is rich. For
Example.
what?
Example.
Example, Clifford is helpful and he is nice too. Emily Elizabeth, one of
The
other
favorite.
What?
One of the other favorite.
one of the other favorite parts of the story is when Clifford gives her gifts to Emmy Elizabeth. A great story to remind friends give
Gifts.
gifts to Emily.